This is the Freeheel Life podcast, episode number 94. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it's Telemark time, my friends. Monday morning here in the United States. And I'm happy to be back with you for yet another episode. And it's fun because we're finally starting to actually talk about something that's going to happen soon rather than, springtime. It's like winding down and we're kind of just ready looking forward. What are we going to do this summer? But now we're actually starting to think about snow and think there's a little bit of cold in the air, not much. It's still pretty warm here in Salt Lake. But starting to think snow, starting to think gear, and starting to think about getting the shop open for the season. So with that said, I mentioned it last week. Several Scarpa boots are back in stock. So you can head on over to freeheellife.com to see what sizes we have. We've got a pretty healthy shipment already in for the season. So please go to freeheellife.com, go to the boot section. You can see what's available. If for some reason you don't see what you need, you'll notice if you go to the size that you're looking for, you can click a notify me button on the item and the size you need, and you'll be the first one to know when it's stocked once we get it in. So that's a good way to stay on top of stuff. Of course, you're not going to check the website probably every day. I mean, we would love for you to, but let's be realistic here. It's nice to push a little notification button. It hits you up when it shows up, and it gets it all done for you. On the Telemark Skier Magazine side of the house, latest news, just to kind of let you know what's going on over there. There's a new news article about Park City Mountain Resort closing the 9990 gate. This is a backcountry gate. You can go read that. Also, Black Diamond recalled a batch of climbing skins, and you can find out more about that. Typically, all the news pieces are 100% free. We would love for you to get your snow news and your Telemark news over at telemarkskier.com. For those of you who want to support even more, we have premium content that we started pushing out this summer, and we've got Craig Dostie as the editor-in-chief over there, doing amazing gear reviews, digging into the culture, and we're doing tons of stuff over there on that side of the house. So you can check out some of the latest premium pieces. There's an updated Rotofella Freedom Telemark binding review, Rotofella Freeride Telemark binding review, and then for those of you that have checked out our Sips and Tips, where we do a live Zoom call, we've recorded those, and our latest one that we did was about Telemark boot modifications, which is a popular topic these days amongst telemarkers and honestly always has been. So telemarkskier.com, it's supported by you, the people of the Freeheel Life world, and we very, very much appreciate it. So on that note, I mentioned Craig. He's running telemarkskier.com for us, and today I thought I would bring him back on the podcast. A couple weeks ago, I had Taylor Johnson on here talking about the Freeheel Life shop stuff. So I figured this was the perfect time to get Craig's take on the upcoming season, what's going on. We talk ski passes, backcountry resorts, the death of 75 millimeter boots in the future, and a lot more. So things are starting to heat up as we get ready to cool down for another great Telemark winter. And I hope you enjoy the listen this week, my friends. So let's get right into it. All right, dude, we're live. Welcome back. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. It's going good. So, it's end of summer. Can you believe it?
I know. It's crazy. I can't believe it's September already. And here we are getting ready to hop into another Telemark season. So,
yeah. My only regret on that is we start mentally preparing for the season right now. But when's the snow going to come?
I think we technically got snow already here in Utah. I think you guys got some in Colorado, kind of, maybe.
Oh, well, no. Out at Silverton tends to get a storm in September, sometimes early September, sometimes late. That's a bit of a drive. But yeah, it's not that unusual.
I don't think
Definitely.
I ski that early anymore. Anyways, I'll be honest with you. I feel like when I was younger, I would get excited in October and go hiking. I don't think I do that.
Oh no, in fact, I was talking with another buddy today about that very thing, and I remember one time we went up into the Sierra. I think it was October 1, and we were just so psyched that we thought there was enough snow to go skiing. We went up to Onion Valley. It was a backcountry trip, and we hiked up and we skied, right? But we trashed the bottom of our skis. There's no doubt. So, I mean, it was really great bragging rights, but was it worth it to destroy a pair of skis? Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. That's funny. It reminds me, I think, what is it, like Ski the East or one of those guys, they had reposted a story of, have you seen those guys like at Mad River? I think it was an old Mad River thing where they used to saw snowboards in half and kind of make these early season grass skis. Have you seen that before?
Oh, wow. No, haven't.
Oh,
I have grass skied before though.
it's just easier. I think those, they're literally, I think it was a Mad River Glen thing. They're like literally like mowing the lawn, mowing the runs.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, oh man, that is so not how it looks underneath out here on the West Coast. It's rocky. There's no grass, but yeah, you can turn it on pretty quick out there. If they get a foot of snow or man-made, they're ready to roll. So I would have my grass skis, I think, if I lived on the East Coast.
Yeah, you know what? There's other things to be done until the snow flies. So that's, and I learned long ago, I need to mentally shift to something different in the summer. Otherwise it's, I don't want to ever burn out on skiing.
Yeah, I'm a more seasonal guy too. I think that's the way to go for sure. Yeah. Well, with that said, I guess we're not too far out. I mean, people are starting to think gear. They're starting to think. That's why I wanted to get you on today, because we can kind of update folks on what's happening in the Telemark world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Part of having you on, I wanted to get kind of talking about what's going on with gear stuff we're hearing. I know you and I talk all the time, so there's always like the preseason, what might be floating out there type of thing. And also talk about telemarkskier.com, because we've kind of been flowing on that for a couple months now, and maybe try to point out a couple of the pieces we've been doing there. But I guess to kick it off, like, what are you thinking about going into this season? I mean, we kind of had the last couple seasons have been kind of odd in sorts. So
yeah. Well, let's see. On the odd note, okay. I'm still debating. Actually, let's see. Tomorrow is kind of like D-Day for. Well, and by the time this podcast comes out, maybe it's last week. Okay. Decision time for buying passes, and if you don't plunk down your money by September 8th, then the price goes up. And so I'm debating what to do in that regard. I have made a categoric decision. Icon is not getting my money, and I'll be as polite as I can on that, and I think most people will understand what I'm saying. I was not treated like a guest for most of last year. And I don't think that's how customers who are paying good money to visit an establishment should be treated. So for that, I'm not buying that pass. Perhaps ever again. We'll just see how the season unfolds this year. But I don't really need to go to a resort. I'm plenty happy earning my turns and hiking up. I like the whole, experience of the hike and being in the mountains and just being with a close group of friends and having untracked snow beneath my feet on the way back down. I love that. Okay. If I were learning, if I was still, trying to hone my skills, I would definitely want to be at a resort, but I'm not at that place anymore. I'm at a point where I'm trying to maintain my skills.
Yeah, for sure. What do you, that kind of brings up a point. I've been meaning to ask you about this. Is there's sort of a new emerging market of backcountry ski resorts, which is interesting because, like you said, if you're a beginner backcountry skier of any type, getting the reps of skiing in general or skinning or whatever it may be, that might not be the right thing. But what's your take? I mean, I think in your zone, we've got, I had Jeff Crane on. They've got the Mosquito Pass stuff with North London Mine. There's the Bluebird backcountry. Are you familiar with that one? That's
I'm more familiar with I'm familiar with Jeff Crane and what he's doing with the permit that he's got.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't hear that podcast, and I'm unaware if he's doing intro tours, but if he is, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, I don't think they're not as far down the road as the Bluebird thing is, but
yeah. Well, and what he's going for is a hut. Okay. They're basically refurbishing some old mining buildings and making them hospitable, warm, in up Mosquito Pass area, which that's cool. That's great.
Flushable toilets. Flushable toilets, by the way.
Okay. All right.
You're like, okay, whatever.
No, that's important. Right?
All right. Yeah. No. So Bluebird backcountry. Yeah. Take me there with what you know about this. I'm kind of curious. We've never talked about this. So I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah. No, I haven't been there, but I've gotten some feedback from some people who have been there, and it was kind of what I expected. They were like, well, the terrain's kind of okay, but they were experienced backcountry skiers, and I think they went there with someone who was new, and they didn't basically, I think it was a girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, okay, and they didn't want to be the teacher because they knew that could cause problems. So they went to Bluebird, and they thought it was a really good, they had good instruction, and the fact that you can rent a rig, that was all great. I don't think they can rent tele rigs, but I could be wrong on that. I'm more than happy to be wrong, but you can at least rent a pair of skis, bindings, skins, and boots, a whole package, to get introduced to the backcountry. And so the great thing about it is they are doing avalanche control work. So theoretically, as someone who's participating on their land, you don't got to worry about that. That doesn't mean you got to completely close your mind and turn off your brain, but it means that you can then have some reasonable assurance that everything's okay. And from what I've seen on the map, I mean, the terrain is not that steep. So it's the sort of terrain you would go to early season in Colorado when you didn't want to have to worry about avalanches.
That's interesting. I wonder if more places will start popping up like that. I mean, I've mentioned it before in a few podcasts here and there that I wouldn't be surprised with the price of day tickets if we start seeing more moderate terrain style places become more interesting to people, or even like going back to old rope tows. You know what I mean? Like, just because like affordability for some people, I know a lot of us are going to get passes and we're going to go ski at our local mountains, and we want to get the reps, and that probably sounds ridiculous, but yeah, for the person that's just looking to get in or go a couple days a year or have like a town hill, so to speak, I wouldn't be surprised to see if there's some growth, like I think even when we talked, you were growing up in Michigan. I mean, that's kind of like, right? Like you guys started skiing at like local hills that.
No, we skied in our backyard.
Oh, there you go. Right.
And then we went to Miller's because that was where we had our kamikaze toboggan runs. And when we could manage that, then we went to the golf course, not because it was steeper, but it was longer. And, okay. And the reality is, even though I was hiking, I figured out the turn relatively quickly. And so I guess the reality is, someone may not be able to afford to plunk down for a season pass and new skis and new boots and bindings. And if you're going backcountry, you at least need to also get climbing skins and a beacon. And I mean, right there, I've rattled off over probably $2,500 in gear. Okay. And so your first year, you don't save any money, especially if you got to buy all new. And I'm sure most people wouldn't buy new. I'm sure you can get most of that stuff used for at least skis, boots, and bindings for $1,000 or less. A beacon, it's still going to cost you at least $100 for a used one with almost no range, but you'll have a beacon. You'll feel like you've done the right thing. But I think the cool thing about these backcountry things is that, I think an Avi 1 course is an important course to take, but I think more importantly is getting the field experience, feeling the snow. Because it's very easy to go to a class, and I don't think I've never talked to anyone who took Avi 1 and felt after they took it like, oh, I know what's going on. In fact, actually most people realize after taking Avi 1, I barely know anything, and that's true. But everything about everything you need to learn about, and then you just got to spend a lot of time in the field, and all the things that you were told about, you'll start becoming more intimately aware of, and you'll start to understand, oh, this is what a sketchy snowpack feels like. They can't teach you that. They can't teach you what it feels like. They can tell you that you'll feel it, but until you feel it, you don't know what it feels like.
Getting reps. Got to get the reps in.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Well, that reminds me of another thing that you recently did, and by the time this podcast comes up, is the Dostie's View is coming back. And we, if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel or Instagram TV, Dostie does a weekly view on a certain topic. And I was most impressed by your most recent one, which is you on ice skates.
Yeah, and you know what? That one I've had that one in my head for years. And we talked about it on the podcast with Susie Sutphin. Okay.
Oh yeah, you did. And I'll be honest, I was skeptical when you told me you were going to shoot a Dostie's View on ice skates. I was.
Sure. And you know what? But here's the thing that made it all work, okay? Because I've been trying to work on this for years. I mean, I did it years ago. Bill Stevenson was my photographer, and at the time I'm doing Cool War magazine. So all I can do is still shots, right? I can't put video in a paper magazine. So we went out and I was using rollerblades because it was about September, this time of year. And I'm skating backwards to demonstrate this technique of how you can practice telemark wading, doing a backward scissors move, which is basically going around a corner. Okay. And he shot some great photos, and we did a story on it, and I know nobody got it because it was still photos, right? And Susie thought I was a kook. And then I moved out here, and the state of the art of technology is such that I can use my phone to shoot a movie, right? Cool. And so I tried getting some friends to shoot me doing that, but they could never shoot it right because they were standing still and I'm moving, and I wanted close-up photos, but they were incapable of doing that. Well, what made it all come together is my nephew is going to Colorado U, and he's a hockey player. He's been on a hockey team. Now he's not on the team at CU, but he's a young kid. He's an amateur. He's skating year round practically on a hockey team, so he knows how to skate. And so the thing is, he was able to skate beside me to capture what I'm trying to demonstrate, and that's what made it all come together. So special thanks to Jackson Dostie, because if he hadn't been the cameraman, I couldn't have done it. I mean, I could have skated, but you would have looked at it and gone, yeah, okay, whatever.
Well, and that's, so it's funny because I look, I've been on ice skates. I not as much as Tay, old Telly Tay from the shop. When I showed him this, he goes, "Oh, yeah, that's true." And so explain to people, what, if they haven't seen the Dostie's view, explain to them what the basics of what you can demonstrate through being on ice skates and doing this technique. How does it translate?
Yeah. So basically, you have to be a good enough skater that you can skate backwards. Number one, okay, and I recommend ice, because if you fall, you'll just slide. Okay,
yeah,
but you can do it on blades too. There's no reason you can't do it on blades. It's just the consequences of fall. It's gonna hurt.
I like that you call them blades too. That makes them sound super hardcore. You can do it on blades, but you might not want to.
So anyway, what you're doing is you're skating backwards, but you're going around a corner. Okay, and when you go around a corner, what you do with your feet is you do what's called a scissors move, where your rear foot leads the transition and you cross over it. Basically, if you're going around a corner, let's say you're going backwards and you're going to the right, your right foot will cross over behind the heel of your left foot, and that action causes you to turn. Okay, but to do it, and to cause the turning, you have to drive a lot of force on the tip of your blade, whether it's an ice skating blade or a roller blade. Okay, and that weighting of the tip of the toe, okay, is exactly the same as telemarking. It's just that you're going backwards.
But it's weighting the inside foot, essentially.
It's weighting the inside foot, and you end up tipping like you're skiing. Okay? And you initiate the turn like you're on NTN, like I tell people, step back into the turn. Weight the rear ski before you cross the fall line, not as you cross it. And so it develops a whole bunch of things that become muscle memory, so that when you get on the snow, your telly is dialed day one. There's no catching up to where you were at the end of last season.
Yeah. So, I think this is a good thing. Is this is when we start thinking about things that you can do to get in shape, practice technique. And I think if you haven't seen Dostie's view, we put them out every Tuesday, and we're kind of getting it back up and running. If you haven't checked it out, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and you can see Dostie demonstrate on ice skates this technique amongst many, many other awesome viewpoints. And I've enjoyed watching them. You always come up with some super interesting stuff to talk about. So both gear, technique, what's going on in the world, and it's always good. So I'm on that note, you shot me a little juicy tidbit today on some boots.
Oh,
Can-
yeah.
Can we?
Woo.
Is this out in the open? Like, can we talk about? Well,
I think we can. I think we can. Yeah.
It-
Yeah. I mean, it's not news, but we'll break it here, I guess.
No,
And
for sure.
And maybe the story will have broke by the time you're hearing this podcast, and I'll have written something up. I need to kind of confirm, but my source is pretty solid. Okay. And basically, the end of 75 millimeter is on the horizon, and I'm kind of feeling a little remorseful about it, because even though I've made the switch to NDN, and I encourage people to make the switch, because I think there are performance advantages both uphill and downhill. One of the things that is really awesome about 75 millimeter gear is the flex of the boots. And that's why there's some diehards who are like, 75 millimeter for life, and I'm never giving up, and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, okay, I mean, I understand your sentiment, sort of, okay, because nothing flexes in the Telemark NTN boot world like a T2 or a T1, okay, or an XP or an XR from Crispy, or a Synergy from Scott. Nothing flexes like those boots. Now, we can approximate, and it gets really close, and I think the performance advantages of NTN make that kind of disappear, all right? But when you're making the transition, you definitely notice that you've lost something. And so the thing I learned today is the XP and the XR are no longer being produced.
Yeah, that's big news, because we tend to get more information about Scarpa. I mean, it seems like that's all we ever talk about when you bring boots up. So, So I thought this was like a little juicy tidbit, coming out of the Crispy world. And they're not as popular in the States, but they are here. And obviously it's going to make an impact, because I guess the next question is we need to start digging up the news on what does that mean for their NTN lineup? Are they going to start?
Yeah, no, what does it mean? I mean, does that add an opportunity for Scarpa to finally pull the trigger on what they've been working on? Or does that mean that Crispy is going to be actually investing more energy into developing something new for NTN, so that maybe there's a little bit of competition in the NTN world, and in boot advancements? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm most curious about, because I feel like if anybody's going to compete, it's going to be Crispy. I don't think Scott's going to probably do anything.
Yeah, it's really it's unfortunate, because I mean, I don't know everything about Crispy, but my understanding of the size of Scott as a company, because of their cash flow from the bike side of the world, they potentially have the resources available to invest more in ski boots. But will they? The fact that they stopped making the kids' boots 3 years ago, and they stopped pumping out any excursions, and then they officially announced it this last spring that no more. I mean, that's a trend for Telemark in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what makes me wonder is this leading to more resources or less resources? So I guess time will tell.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, it sounds like you might be able to cook something up for telemarkskier.com on that. And I think for those of you that have not subscribed to the premium content over at telemarkskier.com, Dostie's been pumping on that all summer for the last couple months, doing a great job. And also, news tidbits are traditionally free, and it's a great place to get your news about this kind of stuff, industry news, things popping up, the Dostie's views, etc. But I know you started putting the blood flow in there, man. I mean, we got a couple. I know you've been pumping on the premium pieces, but are there off the top of your head, are there any pieces that kind of stick out that people should check out leading into the season?
Well, actually, there was a story. I think there's 3 stories just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a couple others, but one was a backcountry gate closure at the canyons, which is now part of the larger Park City Resort. So the 9990 gate, which is off the 9990 chair, they closed that, and that, I mean, the simple version of that is last year was a fairly deadly year for avalanches here in America. There was a 2-week period where 18 people lost their lives in avalanches. Most of them were Colorado and Utah. Very unfortunate. But I think one of them was in this area that gate accesses. I could be wrong on that. I didn't double check my facts, but in their press release, they were pointing out that they just kind of looked at it and said, you know what, this is a liability, giving people access to this zone, because this zone that it accesses is where, if people have a problem and they get injured or killed, it tends to be in this area. And so they closed it. And I think it's an unfortunate trend. They have, as the leasers of the land, they have the right to open or close whatever they want. And if they deem that it's a little bit too dicey, they're going to close it, which they did. Now, I need to counter that the area that that gate accessed is still open, but it's accessed from a different chair, which requires a longer hike. And I think their perspective was simply, well, we're not closing access completely to this zone. We're just forcing it to be people who are a little bit more backcountry oriented and more willing to hike a little bit harder. And the gate that they closed made access, they felt, a little bit too easy for people who were not backcountry savvy.
Yeah, and that used to be my home mountain. That gate was easy. It was easy, easy pickings. And back in the day, it was that's like one of that doesn't surprise me. And I think that is a good story for people to check out is, I think with getting out of bounds, so to speak, I remember that being one of the first times. Remember, like back in the day, it was like almost like side country didn't really exist. Like if you skied the resort, cutting the rope was a big deal. There weren't like access gates to the side country. It used to be a little more definitive. And if you were gonna poke outside the rope, I mean, what you were getting into. But then it kind of became sort of normal to have these gates, and that was one of those. In the early 2000s, I remember being like, oh, we just walk out, like no big deal. There was a big skull and crossbones on it, and you knew you needed a beacon. But yeah, it got I can say from firsthand experience that particular zone has been troublesome for many, many years. So not surprising, but seems like a good solution. So
yeah, I'm glad they maintained a backcountry gate. They just made it the harder gate to access the goods, which honestly, in the spirit of backcountry, I think that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think, yeah, I mean, it's, man, more people are getting deeper a lot sooner in their backcountry career. So I think, like you mentioned at the beginning, just even education, getting level 1, get level 2. Don't get too, like, I like how you said about doing level 1 backcountry. It's like you get done with level 1 backcountry and you start going, oh, I don't know anything. That's how you should feel, I think, in general, is as you learn, you start realizing how absolutely, you got to keep learning in order to stay safe.
Yeah. I mean, one of the guys who helped develop the original Avi level 1, and I know things have changed a little bit. The curriculum is a little bit different, but the original curriculum of Avi 1, per Bela Vadas, who is one of the key developers, the late Bela Vadas, I should add, he and I became friends, and he was telling me that the great thing about level 1 is it teaches you 90% of what you need to know in terms of subject matter, the things you need to learn about, right? But there's no way in a 3-day course you can understand all that 90%. You just don't have the depth of knowledge, and the only way you get it is by going out there and experiencing it. But I think what is really cool is that opens your eyes to everything you need to know, pretty much. And then you just, it's up to yourself to educate yourself and get the experience so that you understand that 90%.
I like that. Yeah, education, man, super important. Just constantly, building upon what you're learning.
Yeah, and with snow, here's the other thing. Like, even when you think you don't know.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, because there's so many variables constantly. So
right.
Well, what you mentioned there might be another 1 or 2 pieces people should check out.
Oh yeah. So the other one is Mike Hattrup got hired by Black Diamond to head up the ski division, and so I think kudos to Mike and kudos to Black Diamond. Okay. Because Mike he's really savvy. He's a skier through and through. And, I don't know if he telemarks much anymore. I know when he was, heading up K2's Telemark division, the Telemark ski line, he was totally into it and he was good. Okay. He was not a slouch. He was not hacking it. He was a solid Telemark skier. And so it was really cool when he was heading that up that, I mean, his influence really helped develop those skis. And that's why they were so well accepted, because he knew what was needed. And he was brilliant with marketing, the Pieced Off and the Piece Stinks and the Totally Pieced. All those were great names, and that helped raise the visibility of the line. I don't expect to be doing anything with Telemark for Black Diamond, but their ski division is more than skis. It's skis, it's poles, it's whippets, it's airbag packs, it's beacons, it's AT bindings. What else? Anyway, there's a lot there, right? And so having someone who is just a well-rounded, high caliber skier running that, I think it's, they're going to turn out some good things. And I know that BD is their ski line. It's like they go through these phases. They're hot, then they're cold, then they're hot, then they're cold. I don't know where they're at right now, honestly, but I would expect with Mike in there, within 2 years, they're going to have some great skis.
Yeah, and I do think that's a good story, and I think people tend to see something like that. I think I noticed on the forum somebody brought this up, and they see a story about Hattrup, and then they think, oh, this has got to be like, what is Black Diamond going to do for Telemark? And I think you said it correctly. Like, I don't think this is as much about Telemark. I mean, this isn't hearkening back to like K2 Telemark and like Hattrup's there. I just think it's a notable figure, and from the backcountry perspective, it 100% makes sense to kind of track the story as like backcountry items, what, like you said, whether it's poles, whippets, backcountry accessories, skins, whatnot. It reminds me, and I'll just throw my 2 cents in here. I know I've mentioned this before because I'm always talking about which companies could influence or maybe had once influenced Telemark, and where, like, honestly, Black Diamond and Volet are very closely related to this. There was an era where Black Diamond and Volet, you could call them Telemark companies to a certain extent, but really what they were is, I would call them backcountry companies, and it happened to be a Telemark era. You know what I mean? And, And
for sure.
I think it's evolved out of there. So I just wanted to make that. I think it's an important story to track from, like somebody in there that has incredible history, and it's going to lead probably to really good backcountry skis. But I don't think it's like as much of a, nobody hold their breath that Mike Hattrup's going to pop out and be like, oh yeah, we love those Telemark skiers from Black Diamond, and start making some ski pissed off Black Diamond era. It's not going to happen. So just FYI that's there's a different reasoning for maybe bringing that up. So I don't want people I'm trying to like overly do it here because I don't want people to get all tweaked out like that somehow Black Diamond's a Telemark company again. That's not what I think we're trying to say here. So
no, they're a mountaineering company, and skiing is part of the mountaineering realm.
Yep.
Okay,
that's a good way to put it.
And actually, I think I was talking about skis and poles and packs, skins. I think actually the thing that I'm probably looking forward to the most is ever since Black Diamond acquired Ascension, they've, just like their skis, go hot and cold in terms of, they come up with some great designs, and for a couple of years their skis are really great, and then something changes, maybe they get made at a different factory, they just change their formula, and they're not quite as cool they don't get the rave reviews anymore, and then they get back on it. Anyway, the same thing has gone on with the glue for their climbing skins. They get good batches and bad batches, and this has been going on, oh my gosh, I think for at least 15 years, maybe 20. I don't remember when they bought Ascension, but I do know that Ascension, when it was owned by Paul Hebert, that was the best glue you could get on the planet. Okay.
What makes good glue? Tell me. I know you've explained this to me, but I'm like, look, I'll be honest. I'm not like the guy sitting around like pulling my skins apart and like looking at the glue. I just don't like when it goops up. That's what I don't like.
No, nobody likes when it goops up. Okay. And so the thing with glue, climbing skin glue, is it's a balance, and the balance is affected by the width of the skin. And I think part of the reason why Ascension skins were so highly revered is they were much stickier than any other glue that was on the market. But at the time Paul Hebert owned it, the widest skin that he manufactured, I think, was 80 millimeters.
Ooh, that's a fatty.
Okay. And that's a narrow skin now. Okay. And so 80 millimeters of sticky glue is fairly easy to rip off your ski while you're still connected to your skis. All right.
Right.
And to me, that's the balance that needs to be created with the glue. So the glue needs to be sticky enough that it sticks to the ski and doesn't come off when you don't want it to come off. But when you do want it to come off, it comes off relatively easy. And that's where most climbing skin glues fail. And if it comes off easy when you want it to, generally it tends to come off when you don't want it to as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. So like that brings up an interesting point though. So like when BD acquired Ascension, essentially the width of the ski was like, maybe they didn't modify the glue going from a narrower ski as it started widening up. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, I think that's part of what's going on, but I also know that they played with the formula. And now this is some knowledge that I'm privy to and very few other people are. But so when they bought Ascension, they knew the glue was special. So part of their deal with buying it was, Paul, you got to train us how you came up with your magic formula and how we maintain the magic formula, right? And at the time, I was doing Core, so as soon as they took over, I was like, hey, well, so send me your new skins so I can confirm that they're still Ascension skins, just owned by Black Diamond. And they did. And the glue started going bad after 5 tours. It started coming off, clumping off, and it was overly sticky. So I was polite. This was before the internet was, everyone had access, and everyone knew how to get on forums and just leak, or just tell the world, hey, this product sucks. So, right?
Oh boy.
So I sent a letter to Black Diamond. I go, hey, I know bad batches are possible. I think you sent me a pair of climbing skins with a bad batch of glue. And they promptly sent me a new pair of skins. And those went for 2 months, and then they started to go bad. And so then I called them and I said, hey, look, I kind of need to report on this at this point, because I understand you could make a mistake, but you didn't fix it. And that's when they fessed up and said, well, actually, we think we figured it out, and we'll send you another pair of skins, but this is what happened. And basically, Paul gave him the formula. It's a certain process, and they taught one guy. And so he knew the magic formula. He knew it all. He quit.
So the best of skin glue was lost forever.
kind of, And so after he quit, they had Hebert, he took his money and he went to Mexico, and he just was having a great time, right? And they had to hunt him down in Mexico and fly him back up to Salt Lake. And that's when he pointed out that they had skipped a step. And so basically they documented that much better, and so the glue was good for another 3 or 4 years, but then they changed the formula. And so ever since then, it's been on again, off again. They got good batches, bad batches. And one of the stories that, we just put out is there was a bad batch of glue produced early 2021. So if you happen to buy Ascension skins and there's a table with some numbers that are stamped onto the tailpiece, on the underside of the tailpiece, the metal tab, if you're in one of those batches, call BD up or go on. I think you can go online. I think I put a link in there, and you can return the skins, and they'll either send you some new Ascension skins or give you the option to substitute a pair of mohair Glide Light skins. So Ascension and Glide Light use the same glue, but Ascension tends to be nylon skins, and Glide Light is mohair, or a mix of mohair and nylon, mix.
Are they calling them Ascension still? BD Ascension?
Yeah. Well, no. So Ascension is the nylon skins.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it.
And Glide Light is predominantly mohair skins.
Both Black Diamond products, so.
Both Black Diamond products, but they gave them 2 different brand names. Why? Whatever. That's how you distinguish. Okay. And for those who don't know, nylon is longer lasting. It gives better grip. If it's a good plush, and Ascension tends to be a good plush, I would go along with that. They have good glide, and if you're new to this backcountry game, why do you need glide in a climbing skin when what matters most is the grip? Well, that's true, because you're going uphill. You want good grip. But the reality is, when you slide the opposing ski forward, you don't want there to be very much drag. And it's a subtle thing, but if you have good glide on the skin, then sliding that ski forward, there's less resistance. It's just an incremental thing. It might be 1% of your energy beat, but over the course of 10,000 steps, 1% extra energy adds up. So if you got better glide, it takes less energy to skin up. And also, if you backcountry ski much, you know that there's a lot of times you're going up, but then you'll hit this little section where you have to go down. Well, you don't want to have to take your skins off. You just want to be able to glide down. And so if you have good glide on the skins, you'll be able to glide at a fairly decent clip.
I like it. I think you're the only guy that probably has a history of glue, skin glue somehow in your memory from
no, for sure
1980 to now.
For sure I do.
You've got little samples of glue and plush like on a board that you look at.
Oh yeah. And here's the other thing. I mean, I'm probably the only one who does this as well. I mean, I'm always quote testing skin glue, but the way I test is I have a mismatched pair, because you can't go out in snow conditions on day one and then follow up the next day and expect the snow conditions to be identical. I mean, snow metamorphosizes all the time, right? So even if you did back-to-back days with two different pair of skins, you're not comparing the same conditions. So I always have mismatched so that I can tell if one brand ices up versus another, or one brand comes off versus another, or one brand is easier to rip versus another, or one brand, when you stick them glue to glue and you try and peel it apart, is easier or harder, because it's identical conditions, exact same temperature, exact same humidity, exact same snow conditions. And it takes time to notice the differences.
This is why I put you in charge of Telemark skier gear reviews, my friend, because you're always switched on, ready to go. That's a great way to do it. And I would encourage people, definitely check out those articles over on telemarkskier.com. Dostie's doing an awesome job. It's been killer. Yeah, it's been killer having you on there. And we're going to have a ton of new stuff coming out as we head into the fall, and hope you guys will become subscribers, guys and girls, everyone.
Yeah, let me just add to that. I mean, this may be old news to some of you, but I'll just remind you, the world of media has changed, and Josh and I used to debate this a lot. We don't debate. I'm in full agreement with him, okay? But there was a time he's like, no, we have to do this without advertising. I'm like, well, without advertising, how do we generate money? It's not like that is the model that the media has used worldwide forever. But now things have changed in the last 5 years, and it's become apparent that if you are a niche publisher of niche information, unless it's mainstream, unless it's really popular, you cannot generate enough advertising support. And so it boils down to the people who want that niche information have to be willing to support the publishing of it. And it takes time and energy to, put that together and put out the stories and put out the videos and this and that. And so the only way that works is if you think it's important enough to support it with a subscription.
I love that, man. Yeah, I'm glad I'm glad we worked hard talking through that over the years, and super excited for what's coming up. And I think today was a good catch up. I appreciate you taking the time, and it was good to just kind of rap about a bunch of different stuff. And kind of, I figured, had Taylor on a couple weeks ago, talk about the shop stuff. I think this was a good catch up, get people thinking about telemarkskier.com and start thinking about articles and gear reviews and all that. And I think people look forward to those articles coming up, some news stuff on boots and the like. And
yeah. I mean, even though there's no new boots, I've got a few boot opinions in the hopper.
Yeah, no, and it's been good too, because I think we're catching up on some reviews that weren't on the site and kind of getting those in. There's a simple binding guide that we've done, and I think we're going to work on trying to kind of aggregate a bunch of the boot and binding stuff as we head into the season too. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on, and let's catch up in another month or two as we get into actual skiing, and we'll have you back on again.
All right, cool. Always great to catch up.
Yep, talk to you soon. Bye. Fantastic. I always love having Craig on. Such a rad guy and a wealth of knowledge. Like I said, he's probably the only guy who has samples of skin glue tucked away in vials in his closet with samples of each skin, so he can test them every night to brush up on his deep cut knowledge of all Telemark equipment and backcountry equipment that's ever existed. Craig is the equivalent of like a vinyl collector who has like every single bootleg of every single concert from every single band you've never heard of from back in the 1960s. And he's like that with all the backcountry gear. But that's why I love him, because he's literally walking around with all this knowledge, and I love talking to him about gear, and he's doing a fantastic job over at telemarkskier.com. I'm so psyched to have him on there at the helm, helping us out, helping us rock the gear reviews, getting those culture pieces out, and we're really starting to amp things up as we kind of get going into the upcoming season. So to stay in touch with us on all fronts, sign up for the mailing list. That's the way that you're going to get notified of content from Telemark Skier Magazine. You're going to find out what's going on at the Freeheel Life shop. You're going to find out what's on the social media, so you don't have to actually look at it all the time. That could be YouTube, could be Instagram, could be Facebook, could be our forum on our website. Most importantly, we just want to connect with you wherever it works for you, and help you find the information that you're looking for. That's the thing that's most important to us. How you can support us, how you can support this podcast, you ask? Exactly. We would love to be your Telemark shop. That's number one. Shopfreeheellife.com. October 9th, we're going to be opening the shop. Put that on the calendar. We would love for you to come in, see the crew, drop your skis off if you're a local, get them tuned up, get them waxed, get them mounted, and we just always want to be that place that you get all the information and stoke going. So freeheellife.com, or check us at Freeheel Life all across the internet. Subscribe and become a supporter of telemarkskier.com. Talked about it plenty already, but go check it out. Premium content every week, and that's the spot to get it. You can always email me if you've got questions, comments, you want to gripe about something. You can always hit me up, podcast@freeheellife.com. And thank you for listening, as always. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast, please take a second, rate and review the podcast. I would love to hear your thoughts. It's nice to see how many people have done that. So if you're one of those people that's rated and reviewed, I think we're back up to 5 stars. It got a little dicey there for a while. I don't know. Some 3 stars took us down for a minute. So give us that 5 stars. If you're stoked about it, leave a review on there. It's cool to hear what you are vibing on. And I just love doing this every week. Love talking to you and love having our Telemark friends on to talk more about stuff. So until next week, spread Telemark always, my friends. And I hope you have a fantastic week and you're starting to think about snow. Peace out.